Have you ever seen anything more beautiful in your life?
Do you know what goes great with chocolate? More chocolate. And so this is a chocolate mousse cake that has 3 distinct chocolate layers, all finished with some fresh berries. Follow along and I'm going to show you how to make one of my favorite evening treats. To get off on the right foot, the first thing that you need is a 9-inch Springform pan. Springform pans are really special because you can simply unlock the latch on the side and lift the bottom out of the pan, which makes removing the cake a lot easier. It also makes adding parchment paper to this a dream. You place the parchment paper over the ring and simply put the sides of the pan on top and close. Now that it's lined, I'm gonna take a pair of scissors and just trim the edge. I actually don't know where my scissors are. I might just tear it. To ensure that your cake doesn't stick to the sides of the pan, just take some cooking spray and spray the inside of your pan. This cake layer is super simple. It comes together in one bowl. In my bowl, I'm combining 1/2 cup plus 2 tablespoons all-purpose flour, 3/4 of a cup of dark brown sugar, 1/3 a cup unsweetened cocoa powder, 3/4 of a teaspoon of baking soda, and 1/2 teaspoon of kosher salt. And then simply just whisk these dry ingredients together until they're smooth. In my liquid measuring cup here, I have 3/4 of a cup of pretty strong coffee, and I'm gonna add 3 tablespoons of vegetable oil to this coffee, and 3/4 of a teaspoon of apple cider vinegar. The apple cider vinegar might sound like a strange addition, but it's actually the acid in the cake batter that reacts to the baking soda and encourages the cake to rise. Now I'm gonna add these ingredients to my dry ingredients, whisk it together, and my batter is done. So I'm gonna pour this batter into my Springform pan, let it spread around evenly, and then throw it in my 350-degree oven until it's firm in the center to the touch, which takes about 35 minutes. You're gonna take 1 cup of cream and go ahead and just pour it in your saucepan. To make a custard, you first have to temper your egg yolks. In order to cook our egg yolks to make them food safe, we have to very gently heat them so they don't scramble on us. So I'm gonna bring my cream just to a light steam on the stovetop. I don't want it to boil. I have my steaming cream right here, and I'm gonna just let it sit here. It won't cool off too much. And in this bowl, I have 1/4 cup of granulated sugar. So I'm gonna add my egg yolks to this and whisk until the sugar is dissolved. All right, and now I'm gonna slowly stream in about half of my cream, whisking while I'm streaming it in. And this again is just to gradually increase the temperature of the egg yolks. Okay, and now that those are combined, simply whisk your cream in the saucepan and now add the warmed egg yolks into the saucepan. I'm now gonna place my saucepan over medium-high heat, stirring constantly with a rubber spatula. And it's important to use a spatula because it's good at scraping the bottom of the pot so that none of the custard sticks and burns. We're just gonna heat it until it reaches the consistency of a thin pudding. And I'm gonna show you, you can dip a metal spoon in, and if you can run your finger across and the pudding stays where it is, it's set. So my cream and egg yolks are tempered here. They're still pretty warm. Some steam is coming off as I'm stirring it. And here I have 2 cups of melted high quality dark chocolate. A mousse is mainly chocolate, so if you use poor quality chocolate, you'll taste it. I'm gonna combine these 2 things, my melted chocolate and my tempered egg yolks and cream. If you notice any solid pieces in your tempered egg yolks, which may happen, it doesn't mean you did a bad job. Simply take a fine wire mesh strainer and pour your tempered egg yolk mixture through this into the chocolate. Here you can see it starting to come together. It's super glossy and shiny.
Have you ever seen anything more beautiful in your life?
We have to set this aside for about 1 hour and 15 minutes so that it cools completely to room temperature. But do not put this in the fridge. Chocolates, set egg yolks, and butter, when they get too cold, become quite firm. But when they're warm, they're quite liquid, and we need them right in that middle ground to be able to fold in the whipped cream. It's been 35 minutes, and By touching the surface of the cake, I can feel it spring back in the center, which is a good indication that the inside of the cake is fully baked. And I'm now gonna set this aside to cool to room temperature, which will take about an hour to an hour and 15 minutes as well. So now for the fun part of making the mousse. I have my stand mixer right here. You could use a hand mixer if you don't have one of these at home. And I'm gonna pour 1 cup of heavy whipping cream into my stand mixer. To the cream, I'm gonna add 1/2 cup of powdered sugar. I'm gonna whip this until soft peaks form. That means when I lift the whisk, a nice soft peak lifts and falls with the cream. It's important to not over whisk the cream. We don't want really chunky, thick whipped cream. We want it to just have that nice soft peak. The cream is light and sweet, and you can see that it has these really soft peaks that kind of quickly fall over as you tilt it. And now for the folding, which is the delicate magic of mousse making. In 3 additions, I'm going to add the cream to the custard mixture. The first addition is 1/3 of the cream, and I'm simply gonna stir it in. To try to fold cream in to a really thick custard at first, it's just not really gonna work. So we're gonna mix it, and what that does is it will soften and lighten the custard so that we can fold it in with the other 2 additions. Okay, and now I'm going to add the second third of my cream, and I'm going to scoop underneath the chocolate and lift it over like that, and keep repeating that motion until there aren't any more white streaks of cream in the custard. And then once there aren't any more streaks, we're now going to add the rest of the cream and repeat that process of scooping under and folding over. All right, and it's important not to overmix, so as soon as you don't see any streaks anymore, we stop. I'm just spreading the mousse into the corners of the cake pan so that there aren't any pockets of air between the cake and the mousse. All right, my mousse is spread in my cake, and I'm gonna pop it in the fridge. It's been 5 hours, and so my cake is ready to take out of the pan and glaze, but before we glaze it, we have to make the glaze. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna heat the heavy cream on the stove until it's steaming. I'm gonna pour it over the chocolate chips and then just let it sit for 2 minutes. And the residual heat from the cream will gently melt the chocolate so we can stir it to make a smooth and spreadable ganache. Removing a mousse cake from a springform pan requires a little careful attention so that the mousse doesn't stick to the side of the pan. So a way to make sure that never happens is to wet a towel with pretty hot water just so that a little bit of steam is coming off. And I'm gonna run this around the perimeter of the pan so that when I open the pan, the cake is independent and separate from the pan itself. All right, I'm gonna work pretty quickly. Now that the edge of the pan has been warmed, I'm just gonna open my springform pan. And you can see in the side of the cake here, this beautiful layer of cake underneath, and then this beautiful smooth layer of mousse on top. I'm gonna use an offset spatula to transfer this to a plate. I'm gonna set this cake to the side. It's been 2 minutes, so my chocolate chips are nice and melted, and all I need to do is whisk it until it's a smooth ganache. So we're taking this ganache and we're just very delicately spreading it across and around the edges of the cake. It's really important to work quickly because the chocolate ganache is gonna set as it cools on top of the cold cake. And we're just covering the top layer of the cake so that you can see that beautiful contrast of the mousse layer from the cake layer underneath it. Because chocolate is so rich, one of the wonderful ingredients to pair with it, to cut through some of that richness and that bitterness, is really acidic sweet berries. If you want really professional, clean slices from your chocolate mousse cake, simply heat up your knife with the same hot rag. I reheated it by running it under some warm water, and this will allow the chocolate to melt on contact with the knife, creating really, really defined edges. You can see the distinct, even layers here. With the ganache layer being nice and firm and shiny, it's just absolutely breathtaking. Now for the part that we've all been waiting for, especially me, I'm going to take a bite. I'm also gonna grab one of these raspberries because, man, come on. My God. All together, this bite is perfect. And it absolutely needs the berries because the tartness from the raspberry and blueberry can be felt in the back of the mouth, and it just makes it a full mouth, enjoyable experience that I promise will be one of the best chocolate cakes you ever have. If you've enjoyed this recipe and you want to learn how to make others like it, be sure to like and subscribe below so you don't miss any in the future. And if you make our cake, please let us know in the comments. We'd love to hear from you. Thanks so much, and we'll see you next time. Bye.